Last offseason, the Atlanta Braves made a lot of moves in order to go get Jared Kelnick in hopes that he would be the left fielder of the future. But after a disappointing season from him and with Ronald not being ready to start the season, could the Braves be in the market for an outfielder once again? We'll look at the top free agent options as well as the top trade targets on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Check out the podcast there at Locked On_Braves. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, do me a favor. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure you hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment down below to help the show out a lot. I really do appreciate all the support you give me, and even those who just go in the comment section to help for the algorithms. I really do appreciate it, and it does mean a lot and help the show a ton whenever you do that. If you're listening on the audio version, you can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. But again, I do appreciate it. I know I say it every episode, but every thumbs up, every comment, every subscriber, it does mean the world to me. So thank you so much to continue to support me here at Locked On Braves. It gives me the motivation to keep going. But I do love it, and I do enjoy it, and I think we're in a fun time. I know this is the offseason. There's no baseball being played, but I think right now, through like middle of December, you get ready for Christmas. This is a pretty fun part of the offseason. A lot of moves are going to be having, a lot of speculation. So for me, the next month and a half is still a really fun part of the baseball season, even though it's not technically in season. And on today's episode, we are going to look at the top outfield free agents that are there, and as well as the top trade targets for outfield. Yesterday, we looked at shortstop. Today, we'll look at outfield. Next week, we'll look at the starting pitching and relief pitching markets. And then I'm going to tell you what I think I would do if I were Alex Anthopoulos. And it's probably not going to be near as good as what Alex does, because Alex is a great GM, despite what some people will try to tell you. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Before we get into looking at the outfielders available this offseason, we need to address something up front, and that is that similar to the shortstop position, the Braves don't need to go get an outfielder. And I don't think I know I didn't make this clear on the shortstop episode we did yesterday. The Braves don't need to go out and get a shortstop. They can go into next year with Orlando Arce as their shortstop, get to the postseason, win a World Series. If everybody else on this team does what they're capable of doing, that is a true statement. The Braves could go in the next season with what they have in the outfield, assuming everybody stays healthy and performs to what they're capable of, and the Braves could go to the postseason, win a World Series. I truly, truly believe that. If they went into next year with an outfield of Jared Kelnick, Ramon Laureano, platoon and left, Michael Harris, Ronald coming back and right, this team would be just fine. But what we're looking at here with both shortstop yesterday and outfield today, these are the two spots on the diamond where you can say you can make an upgrade. You know, maybe some people out there think you can make an upgrade at catcher, but I just don't think that's going to happen. You're not going to say that at first base. It's not likely at second base. It's not happening at third base. It's not happening in center field. It's not happening in right field. But left field and shortstop are the two, not at DH either, with Marcell Ozuna. Left field and shortstop are really the only two positions you can look at and say you could use an upgrade. But again, if everybody else performs like they're capable of, and most everybody at least stays healthy, you could do nothing with either one of these spots, and the Braves would be okay. But we're going to act like the Braves are going to go out and make a move, and that the Braves are going to look to upgrade because, again, it's fun to do, and it's the time of the year. It is the offseason, so that's exactly what we're going to do on today's podcast. So let's start with the free agents, just like we did yesterday with the shortstops, and we'll look at the top one out there in Juan Soto. He's projected by MLB Trade Rumors to get 13 years, $600 million. Braves are not going to pay that. The Braves are not going to be the team to sign him. I think he's going to go back to New York, most likely the Yankees. It's hard. I can't help but think, though, if the Braves didn't sign Ronald to that deal, and Ronald would have to stay healthy, but what type of deal he could be getting if he were getting ready to hit free agency. So, again, Braves are in a good spot with him, even with the injuries. Now, that deal has been a huge value for the Braves, but Juan Soto is about to get paid a lot of money. Next on the list, and Miguel Fria is saying this one, Anthony Santander, projected by MLB trade rumors to get 4 years, $80 million. And I've talked about him already a little bit on some of the more recent podcasts we've done, looking at the free agents. I don't hate this one. I don't hate the idea of Anthony Santander if the goal is that he's eventually going to replace Ozuna in the outfield, because I don't think he's an outfielder long term. And you can use him in the outfield this year and get by and be serviceable, but then transition him to the DH after Ozuna's contract ends next offseason. He just turned 30 years old. He's been a 2 to 3 WAR player with a 120, 130 WRC plus and 30 plus home runs. He's been pretty consistently that type of player in his career, which is really solid. Again, not an all-star level, but it's kind of what you're hoping that Jared Kelenic could be. Maybe not the 30 plus home runs, that power, but a 2 to 3 WAR player is really all you're looking to get in left field. And the Braves haven't been able to find that yet. A low average, low on-base percentage for Santander, but decent walk rates, decent strikeout rates, a -7 DRS, defensive runs saved, and -2 OAA in right field last year. So again, not somebody that I am wanting to put into the outfield long term. Again, I don't mind the move for Santander, and $20 million a year is not terrible for a guy who, again, has been one of the more consistent power hitters in baseball. I don't mind that deal. I don't mind going after him if part of the idea is that he's going to transition into that DH spot eventually. Teoscar Hernandez, 3 years, $60 million is the projection for him. He just turned 32, a 130 or higher WRC plus in 4 of his last 5 years. He's been more like a 3 WAR player so far, 25 to 35 home runs. Average and on-base percentage really fluctuate. It can be a really low average, which obviously leads to a really low on-base, or it's a decent average with a pretty decent on-base percentage. So it all just kind of fluctuates really based on his averages. It's not a great walk rate that's going to lift that on base, even if he's not getting the hits. It's high strikeout percentage as well. We're talking 28, sometimes 30%. Was a solid defender in right last year, but graded out terrible in left. And when I'm talking about some of these defensive metrics, as I always say, take defensive metrics with a huge grain of salt. But that's what the metrics say about Teoscar Hernandez, who I do think is better than Santander in the outfield, but certainly not great. And again, my limited views of Teoscar Hernandez. So I wouldn't hate that one either. The only thing with him and the next guy I'm going to talk about is that I feel like you had your chance last year to go get these guys and get them on 1-year cheap deals. You missed out, and now you're going to have to pay the big price to go get them, which, shouldn't stop you from going to get these guys if you think they're going to help. But part of me is like, you could have done this last year. You could have done this last offseason, but instead you did all that maneuvering to go get Jared Kelenic. You could have gotten Teoscar Hernandez, assuming, that he wanted to sign with the Braves and just didn't want to go to the Dodgers. You could have gotten Teoscar Hernandez for 1 year, $24, $25 million. Maybe you had to one-up the Dodgers. Either way, you could have already done that. And so now you're going to have to pay multi-years, $60 million or whatever it's going to be. And the same is true for Jerickson Profar, who you could have gotten for nothing last offseason. He goes out, has a career season, and now he's projected to get 3 years, $45 million. He's going to turn 32 in February, and he is coming off his best season by far. And that's a huge red flag for me. You're talking about a 32-year-old who's been an average to below average hitter his entire career. And then all of a sudden in 2024, where a lot of people, the best players, were struggling offensively, and he has a career year. He had never had better than a 113 WRC plus, and it was 139 last year. His highest WAR season was 2.4, and it was 4.3 last year. So again, who is Jerickson Profar? I don't think he's the guy of 2024, and I think it's more likely he reverts back to the guy before that, who was, around an average hitter. But he is a switch hitter, and he can play all over, and that certainly, adds to his value. I don't buy into the 2024 production for Jerickson Profar, and I think it's going to be more like the player that he was before, and that's not worth 3 years, $45 million, in my opinion. Another name on here is a name that Braves fans just seem to be in love with, and you're going to see that later when I go to some of the fan responses. Tyler O'Neill, projected to get 3 years, $42 million, and look, I don't hate the Tyler O'Neill idea. I think he's a good player, and I think he fits what the Braves want, which is power, a career ISO over 200, also a K rate of over 30%, which is not great, but that unfortunately doesn't seem to bother the Braves. They just want that power. But here's my issue with Tyler O'Neill. He's played more than 113 games once over the last 4 years. The guy just can't stay on the field. He can't stay healthy. And I'm just not willing to invest that much in him for a guy that hasn't played a lot. Again, you never know when injuries are going to come. Guys are, can be as healthy as possible, not be injured for 6 years. And then look at Whit Merrifield, never injured. He comes to the Braves this past year and he gets injured. You never really know. But when you have been that injury prone, like I said with Ozzie, I mean, at this point, Ozzie is injury prone. It's unfortunate. Some of the things are fluky, but he's injury prone. Max Fried, look, love him to death. He's usually going to give you 170 innings, but he's going to miss 2 to 3 starts a year. And Tyler O'Neill's become one of those guys who, if you get him and acquire him, that there's going to be weeks, months at a time that he's probably not going to be available. So again, I don't hate the bat. I don't hate the player. I just think that's too risky for a guy that can't stay on the field. Same might be true for the next guy, and Michael Conforto. He's projected to get 2 years, $18 million, turns 32 in March, has a WRC plus of 97 or higher in every season since 2015. But he hasn't produced more than 2 WAR since 2019, and some of that, like I said, is due to injury. The appeal of Michael Conforto and why I really wanted him when he was coming out of New York was that he could hit 25 to 30 home runs and still have an on base of 350 or higher. I mean, it was really the perfect fit, I thought. You get the power that the Braves desperately want, and you get a guy with high on base skills. If you think he can get back to that, even if it's not 25 to 30 home run power, even if you think he can get to 20 to 25 homers and still have that 340, 350 on base, I don't mind Michael Conforto at all. I love that deal. Actually, at 2 years and $18 million, it's been a while since we've seen that version of Michael Conforto. A couple of more free agents really quickly, and then we'll move to the trade side of things. Max Kepler turns 32 in January, solid lefty bat, probably redundant with Jared Kelenic, even though I think he's better than Jared Kelenic and he's more proven than Jared Kelenic. But I just want to mention Max Kepler. Randall Grichuk is a name you've probably heard me say at the last couple of trade deadlines. This is who they should have been going after instead of continuing to go after Adam Duvall the past couple of years. This is a guy that crushes left-handed pitching. Whereas, and I don't want to keep making this comparison, but Adam Duvall can go back and forth with how he hits lefties. There is no question with Randall Grichuk. He is up there to do one thing, and that's hit lefties. So I would love to see him come in as that right-handed bat. You obviously have Laureano already who can do that. But, if you felt better about Randall Grichuk, I think, he is certainly a solid option to do that as a right-handed bat who can hit lefties. Hit 319 against lefties last year, has hit 273 against lefties over his career. So those are the free agent names out there. Again, as always, let me know if I missed one, but those are the ones that I thought were worth mentioning. Next, we'll get into the trade market where there are a couple of big names out there that the Braves could potentially go after. We'll discuss them here next. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. For most of us who like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Ronald Acuna Jr. or Mike Trout rookie auto it's not in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop on a baseball card. Hard for me to justify that to my wife while we have our 3 kids right now. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Arena Club is the repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. After your pools are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and an explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb and use code LockedOnMLB. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB, code LockedOnMLB for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen, where solely we'll keep you up to date with everything happening around Major League Baseball this offseason. You can check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every single day, even in the offseason. We are here every single day through the middle of December. Then we will go back to 3 days a week, but still a lot to come your way. Like I said, this next month and a half, I think is one of the more fun parts of the year. And there's no baseball being played, or at least Major League Baseball, but we're going to have a lot of excitement here in the off season. We'll continue previewing the free agent market next week. We'll have our Minors Monday episode on Monday. Then, like I said, we'll get into the starting pitchers and relief pitcher markets. And then I'm going to tell you what I would do if I were the Braves GM. But tomorrow, Friday, we'll have our mailbag episode. I've already sent the post out at @LockedOn_Braves on X. Make sure you respond to that post with your question to be answered on Friday afternoon's mailbag episode, which I'll probably start recording around 2 p.m. Central. Now, looking at the top trade targets out there, and I'm going through a list by MLB Trade Rumors. They put out their top, I think, 35 trade targets this offseason. We don't really know who's available through trade or not. And Alex is certainly one that is going to look at every possible avenue. But these are just some of the names that could be available. The first one's Mike Yastrzemski. 1 year of arbitration left at $9.5 million, 34-year-old left-handed bat. He's been an average hitter with low average, mostly low on-base percentage. Maybe you get him out of San Francisco in a contract year. He can do some good things. Would also mean giving up on Jared Kelenic, but I guess any of these moves means you're giving up on Jared Kelenic. I don't love that one, but again, I'm just going down their list. Wilyer Braves, a little bit more of an interesting one with the Red Sox. He's arbitration eligible through 2029. He had 3.1 F4 last year. He's a better option than Jared Kelenic, at least right now, and maybe long-term as well. And he is certainly a strong side platoon player. He has very definitive splits and will have to bat against right-handed pitches. But again, that's what you're mostly going to see. Leody Taveras, still just 26-year-old. It feels like he's been around for a long, long time. Mid-teens home runs and 20-plus steals, under control through 2027. Again, I don't hate this one. If you want to get him and replace Ramon Laureano with him, I think Taveras gives you a little bit more of what I want anyway, at least more speed and some versatility in the outfield. Again, I'm not hating on Laureano, who certainly did a good job coming over, and I don't think the price would be high for Leody. Again, it's not a move that I love, but I think it is an option that would be an upgrade. Chas McCormick with the Astros, under arbitration control through 2026, set to make around $3.3 million in 2025. Had a disastrous 2024 when it was supposed to be his chance to finally become an everyday player for the Astros. He got hurt and he underperformed. Sounds like a very familiar story for a lot of players in 2024. So again, don't know that that's going to be the best fit, but it could be a buy low candidate for the Braves to maybe take a chance on, a guy that has 2020 potential. Speaking of 2020 potential, Lane Thomas. He's in last year of arbitration with the Guardians now, projected to make around $8.3 million. Again, he's a guy that, if healthy, is pretty sure bet to reach 2020. A very valuable player. Now, we've talked about him a lot in the past. The Braves possibly looking at him while he's with the Nationals. It could be another chance to go get Lane Thomas. Cedric Mullins, 1 more year of arbitration at $8.7 million. I honestly have no interest in Cedric Mullins. There was once upon a time that I would love to get him back to Atlanta and see what he could do, but he has just been in a steady decline, and he's not worth that $8.7 million in my opinion right now. Brent Rooker, a guy that a lot of you have talked about, and a lot of you want the Braves to go get. With the A's, he's under arbitration control through 2027, projected to make around $5.1 million in 2025. Here's the problem with Brent Rooker, and I think you could probably make the same case for him that I did earlier for Anthony Santander, that maybe you go get Brent Rooker, you put him in the outfield, you live with it for a year, and then he takes over in that DH spot for Marcell Ozuna. I think that's a possibility. I also think you're buying really high on Brent Rooker, but we also know the A's aren't the best run organization, so who knows what they would take for Brent Rooker, but I think he's at least worth making a call on to see what could happen as he's coming off a huge season. And obviously Mississippi State kid, at least that's where he went to college. Not really sure where he's from, but I think he would fit in well here. And obviously that bat would. Again, my only hang up is that I don't know how reliable he can be in the outfield. And if he is just needs to be a DH only going forward. But like I said, that spot could potentially be open after 2025. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, this is not a word, I just made that up. Luis Robert, set to make $15 million in 2025. He has a club option for $20 million in the following 2 seasons. White Sox will be selling low on him. It's similar to what we talked about yesterday with Bo Bichette. If the White Sox were to sell him right now, you would be selling extremely low, as he's coming off a bad season where he couldn't stay healthy. Familiar story. But he just can't stay healthy in general. It wasn't just last year. He has played in more than 100 games one time. Just one time. Now, Luis Robert is an incredible athlete. I've said this story many times, but living in Birmingham, I go and watch the Barons play a good bit during the summer, or at least I did before kids. Not complaining. I've never seen somebody as good as Luis Robert come through the Birmingham Barons, at least just somebody on the Barons team. I've never seen somebody as talented as Luis Robert. So I think the world of him, and I think he is a tremendous player. But yeah, Anthony, he can't stay healthy. And again, I would not be willing to give up the resources for a guy who you might only have 1 year. I mean, you have club control for 3 more years with him. But again, I would not be willing to throw the house at Luis Robert because I just can't trust that he's going to stay on the field. And I think the Braves, and again, you can never predict injuries, but when you're looking at guys like Luis Robert, like Michael Conforto and others, and Tyler O'Neill, and you're seeing a pattern of guys that just can't consistently play more than 140 games, that raises some red flags. Some guys just are more injury prone than others. And unfortunately, Luis Robert, who, like I said, I think is one of the more talented players I've seen at the minor league level, he just can't stay healthy and he can't stay on the field. But those are at least the options out there on MLB trade rumors list. I know there could be a lot more available that we haven't talked about, but those are the ones from the list that I at least wanted to mention. Of this list, nobody really stands out to me that makes a lot of sense. Wilyer Abreu is one I'm intrigued by, but it's essentially the same thing that you tried with Jared Kelenic last year. Now, look, I like Wilyer Abreu, and I think he's already proven more successful at the big league level, but it is a small sample size. But there's nobody else trade-wise on here, at least on this list, except for Brent Rooker. But again, he comes with his own red flags as well, is that I'm not sure that he's an outfielder, or at least needs to be in the outfield. So nobody on the trade side really makes a ton of sense to me. And on the free agent side, like I said, Anthony Santander makes some sense, but I think he's a DH long-term. Teoscar Hernandez, I think, would be solid. But again, I think you're getting him the year after the year, and that worries me a little bit. The rest of these guys, Michael Conforto on a cheaper deal, I don't know. But again, unless they are making a move for Juan Soto, unless they are making a move for Willy Adames, is a similar conversation than we had yesterday. I just don't know that I see the move that makes a ton of sense. And even looking at the shortstop position yesterday, I think Ha-Seong Kim still makes a lot of sense. Outside of these top couple of guys here, and Soto and Teoscar and Santander, there's not anybody in here that I can say they will definitively be better than a potential platoon of Kelenic and Laureano. And look, I'm not high on that platoon. I think if Tyler O'Neill stays healthy, he could be and would be. I think if Michael Conforto can get back to his old self and stay healthy, that he could be. But there's really nobody else on here that I can definitively say that about. Maybe a Lane Thomas, but there's nobody else on here I think I can definitively say that about. So again, while I would love to see the Braves go out and make a big splash this offseason for either a shortstop or a left field, I'm not seeing many great options. Well, let me know what you think. Maybe you disagree. I'd love to hear your comments on this. Do you think there's a slam dunk out here, one that the Braves would obviously go after? Not a Willy Adames, not a Juan Soto, not a guy at the top of this list. Is there somebody on here that you think is a slam dunk, would be a sure upgrade for the Atlanta Braves? Let me know down in the comment section below. And next, I will get to some of your comments and feedback on who you think the Braves should go after. We'll do that here next. You shouldn't have to stress when you buy tickets, and you don't when you use Gametime. I use Gametime anytime that I'm going to a Braves game. All I do is when I know I'm going, I'm checking out the app daily. I'm looking for their flash deals that come up. They have last-minute deals as well. Sometimes prices are cheaper right up until game time, and they give you the best price guarantee. It means that you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. A couple other features I love right there in one screen. You can filter it so that you get the all-in price. You know exactly what you're paying, and you can see the view from your seat. And again, you get that all in one screen. It's so easy to use. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and use our code LOCKEDONMLB to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So I asked you, who would you sign if you were the Atlanta Braves? Give me your top 3 options, similar to what we did yesterday with the shortstops. Caleb Coos says, sign Teoscar Hernandez. Trade one of A.J. Smith-Shawver, Waldrop for Heston Kjerstad of the Orioles. Prospect there. Yeah, we've talked about Kjerstad in the past. I think he does make some sense, and I like him if the Orioles are willing to move him. Sign Max Kepler was Caleb's third. We talked about Max Kepler a little bit. S. Denny 73 says Tyler O'Neill and Santander. Chad Shaw says Teoscar, Tyler O'Neill, Conforto. I'm telling you, Braves fans love them some Tyler O'Neill. AJ Evans, Tyler O'Neill, Austin Slater, Travis Jankowski. Self says Jerickson Profar, Lane Thomas. Brendan Donovan is a name I've really wanted to mention the last 2 episodes. I like Brendan Donovan's bat. It's a different type of bat. And I guess you listen to this show enough, you know I'm kind of looking for that different type of bat to fill in this lineup. Brendan Donovan is one of those guys, can play all over. I think he's good enough to be a starter. But at the very least, he's somebody that, again, can play all over the field, different positions for you, and has a different type of a bat and approach. Bobby Davis says free agents Soto have to at least make the call. Teoscar Hernandez and Santander. Trade candidates Luis Robert, Stephen Kwan, and Lane Thomas. I don't know that the Guardians will move on from Kwan, but that is definitely a different type of bat. Hayden Harris says Soto unrealistic, but he's everything that we need. Profar, probably an overpay, but I liked him last offseason. And Ian Happ, wish the Cubs would make him available. Ian Happ's a name that I've mentioned several years in a row that I like a lot, but it sounds like the Cubs want to hang on to him. Joseph Defina says Jesse Winker, Teoscar Hernandez, Michael Taylor. Jesse Winker's the guy I really wanted at the deadline. I don't know if he fits this clubhouse or not, but I did like the bat. T Studios, Teoscar Hernandez, Taylor Ward, Kike. Taylor Ward, not a name that we've mentioned yet. We have talked about him a lot in the past as a potential trade candidate. I think he might be an in-season one. I think the Angels, like they do every year, they're going to go in thinking we got to win because we got Mike Trout. But I would not be surprised if Taylor Ward is traded at some point this season. But again, maybe not before the season. And then last comment here from Cthan says, we don't really need outfielder. Acuna, Harris, Kelnick, Laureano. Eli White is good extra because Acuna will miss the start. If you don't like Eli or think Laureano will regress, Tommy Pham, maybe. But I wouldn't worry outfield if I were the Braves. And that's kind of where I started, so it's really where I want to finish. Braves don't need to go get an outfielder, but it sure would be nice to go out there and get another big bat that you can depend on when you look at what happened last season and all the injuries and how you had to count on an Orlando RC. And you were counting on a Jared Kelnick. You were counting on a Ramon Laureano. It would be nice to have some more depth and not have to count on, I hate to say this, I don't want it to be demeaning, but second-rate type of players, guys who are fringe starters at the major league level. I mean, let's be honest, Orlando Arcia probably should be a bench utility player. Jared Kelenic should be a situational fourth outfielder. Ramon Laureano should be a bench outfielder. You were having to count on these guys to not just get it done, but at times get it done in spots of the lineup that they shouldn't have to. So again, if you have the opportunity and the opportunity presents itself to go out and upgrade those positions, I think the Braves certainly should. All right, thank you all for joining me today. Storm Chaser Joe, Anthony Hood, Braves N01. Haven't seen you in a minute. Thanks for joining. Benjamin Lee just joined. Thanks, even though you're late. I'll count that tardy. Miguel Fria, Lob S in here. Thank you all for the good conversation. Jeff Berry, Jeffrey Humphreys, everydayer in here. Thank you so much for joining. Alan Daniel, everybody with the comments today. I really do appreciate it. SoCal Brave. Thank you all for joining me on today's live episode. Again, we'll be back tomorrow afternoon with our weekly mailbag episode. So make sure that you are ready for that and submit your questions to LockedOn_Braves to be answered on Friday's mailbag episode. Last I looked, we didn't have a lot out there. We only got 6 questions. So make sure that you go and submit those to be answered on tomorrow's episode. But that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks for making this your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Again, I do truly appreciate it. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.